Alright guys, so we're going to get started on the next lecture here. And this is actually the first lecture that's really getting into the biology. So far we've just been covering the basics of science in general, right? We've been working with microscopes, working with the metric system, graphing, scientific method. Now I'll jump right into biology. And this is going to be sort of a short lecture too, because we're going to get right into just introductory pieces. For example, biology, what does it mean? Bio, the prefix bio means life, and ology means the study of, so therefore the study of life. And whenever you're thinking of life and all the pieces and parts that we're going to be studying, I think the very first question you have to ask yourself is, what is life? Seems like an obvious question with obvious answers, but I challenge you, if you pause this right now, to maybe come up with a list of 7 things and see if yours match mine. So what I think you'll find is a lot of times we think something is a characteristic of life, but it isn't for all life, maybe just for certain things. So here's the 7 characteristics of all life. Number 1, cellular organization. In other words, cells need to be organized. All right, you start off with a single cell, it gets a job. It can become a skin cell. It can become a brain cell. What those cells will do is they'll organize themselves into tissue. Here we're looking at hundreds of little cells organized together, all with the same job, and that tissue will organize itself into organs, for example, the heart. So cellular organization, number 1. Number 2, metabolism. Metabolism is just a fancy word that means all of the chemical reactions that happen inside an organism. And probably the key piece to metabolism is those reactions that end up equaling energy. The energy you have that you can use to do whatever you do throughout the day of an organism. Responsiveness is number 3. The ability to respond to a stimulus. All right, whether it's a dragonfly landing in a Venus flytrap's mouth, what actually happens here is inside the mouth, if we want to call it that, the mouth of the Venus flytrap, there's little cell triggers. And as soon as that dragonfly hits those little cell triggers, it causes a responsive reaction to close on that. All right, and there's a number of different examples of responsiveness we can look at through all the different organisms. Reproduction. We're going to be looking at both sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. This right here, probably a lot of you know this, maybe some of you have this right in your house. It's a spider plant. And the cool thing about spider plant, let me get my cursor over here, all these little baby spider plants hanging down at the bottom, those were produced asexually or without sex. They are actually exact clones of the mother. And we'll be talking more about that. Another one is growth. All organisms, at least at some point during their life cycle, go through a growth phase. And next one, heredity. Heredity and genetics are going to be something we spend a lot of time talking about later on in the year. But it's an important concept here to know that all offspring are a combination of the genes they get, the DNA they get from both mom and dad. And the last one is homeostasis. Homeostasis, again, like metabolism, it's a fancy word that means something that's much more simple in concept, and that's that an organism needs to go through a process to maintain a living environment within itself. Some examples are, for humans, our homeostasis, the process of homeostasis allows us to maintain a body temperature around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Right? If you start to heat up, your body sweats to allow yourself to cool back down. That's just one example of homeostasis. We're going to be looking at more. And in fact, when we come back into class, we are going to be jumping into a lab dealing with homeostasis. So that's where we'll end today. We'll see you in class.